The world outside is quiet tonight, the kind of quiet that wraps itself around you like a soft woolen blanket, heavy with soothing comfort. Snow is falling, gently, steadily, in great drifting flakes that glisten faintly as they catch the glow of the faint street lamps beyond the softly frosted windows. Each one drifts down with a delicate purpose, twirling soundlessly through the stillness of the air, layering the world in tender, untouched white. The snow did not begin with a rush or a sudden flurry. No, it began as a whisper, a soft scattering of flakes that barely began to coat the ground. Slowly, ever so gently, it built itself into this silent, serene veil that now seems to stretch as far as the eye can see. From where you sit inside, the warmth of the room contrasts beautifully with what lies just beyond the glass panes of the window. The light that spills from the crackling fireplace seems to dance upon the walls, flickering in quiet, rhythmic patterns. Golden and alive, it embraces every corner, every edge, chasing away even the thought of cold. The soft creaks of the wooden floors beneath you tell stories of time past, a dialogue between the house and its steady heartbeat of warmth. The chair you rest in is deep and worn, its fabric familiar beneath your fingertips, velvety, smooth, and inviting, as though it has been waiting for this exact quiet moment to cradle you. The air carries the faintest scent of pine, sharp, green, and comforting, as if the very essence of the nearby forest has found its way indoors with you. You take an easy breath, letting the aroma linger, blending harmoniously with the faint traces of cinnamon and nutmeg that float from the kitchen. Somewhere further off, there is the softest hum of a kettle beginning to heat, the promise of tea slow to boil in the background of this perfect hush. You glance again at the window, at the soft blur of the outside world beyond it. The snow on the ground has grown thick, the edges of the trees frosted with a delicate shimmer that reflects in the silvery moonlight. It's a peaceful kind of beauty, a natural rhythm that has existed for longer than you can imagine, yet holds all the tender appeal of something entirely new. Each flake settles so gracefully, joining the others in silence, creating a blanket so gentle and vast that it seems it could cradle the world in softness. And the stillness, oh, the stillness is unlike anything else. No cars now, no planes overhead, just silence, deep, enveloping, and edged faintly by the occasional, almost imperceptible sound of snow shifting as it piles higher and higher. You can almost hear the sound of the flakes meeting the ground, a soft, feathery whisper that fills the space between sounds. The room seems to breathe in harmony with this quiet rhythm. The crackling logs in the fireplace shift subtly, sending tiny embers floating upward like fireflies, glowing for a moment, then disappearing into the air. The ticking of the small clock on the mantel is faint, steady, and reassuring, a quiet metronome marking the moments of this peaceful scene. You could almost imagine that time itself is slowing, the seconds stretching longer and longer, just so you can live within this one perfect evening just a little more fully. Your gaze drifts to the soft throw draped across your lap, a worn, knitted thing, its colors muted from years of love and use. Its texture is familiar beneath your fingertips, the slightly coarse feeling of its wool softened from time and dozens of washes, carrying a faint, lingering scent of lavender from the line outside where it dried in gentle summer breezes long before the snows came. You pull it a little tighter around you, not because you feel cold, but simply for the warmth it seems to promise in its embrace. Leaning back, your head rests against the chair's high back, and you notice, for just a moment, how the light from the fire makes the ornaments on the mantel glisten. They are quiet, sparkling things, remnants of holiday seasons past. glass baubles that refract the firelight in warm shades of amber and gold. A small wooden nutcracker, his paint slightly chipped, but his features kind and steadfast. Pine cones dusted with faint silver glitter that catches the light with a soft twinkle. Each piece whispers a story of a celebration long ago, of feelings cherished and revisited each year in the glow of light and warmth. Your gaze drifts upward, where the ceiling catches the warm glow of the fire, the low wooden beams holding the room in its comforting embrace. The rich, earthen scent of the polished wood fills the air softly, a steady presence, grounding and familiar, like the home itself is breathing along with you. The shadows of flames dance gently across the beams, casting fleeting shapes that move with uncanny gentleness, as though they too are savoring the stillness of the evening. A faint creak comes from the wind brushing against the house, an easy, lazy sound, not at all threatening, as if the world is merely exhaling. It's a quiet reminder of the snow falling heavier now, cloaking the world outside, softening everything it touches. There are no hard edges out there, no sharp sounds or loud voices, just a world remade into a painter's dream of peace, streaked with moonlight and breathing in perfect harmony with the snow. And yet, you are so warm here, warm like the inviting glow of the fire before you, warm like the scent of pine and cinnamon and aged wood that surrounds you. The stillness of the outside world mirrors the stillness you feel here, within this room, within your chest. As you sit there, wrapped in this quiet, it's as though even the concept of time has come to pause. There is no need to think of what comes next, no need to reach backward into thoughts of what was. All that is this moment, this present calm. It's easy, so easy, to let your eyes close for just a moment, to let yourself savor how the warm light falls on your face, how the comforting weight of the throw settles over your legs. Your breaths come more slowly, rising and falling in smooth, unhurried waves. There's nothing pressing you, nothing calling you out of this precious serenity. The sounds of the fire, the whisper of snow, the faint clink of the kettle as it nears its boil, it all blends together into a seamless lullaby, carrying you inward, still deeper into calm. And oh, how the snow continues to fall. Even with your eyes closed, you can almost picture it, those soft, curling flakes tumbling from a sky that feels eternal. You can see them landing gently upon tree branches, frost dressing their bare limbs in lace-like patterns. You can sense how the snow gathers upon rooftops, creating a blanket there too, muffling the sound of even the occasional creak of wind. The ground grows soft and pillowy thick, blanketed in a world utterly pristine and untouched. A perfect silence accompanies it, and with it, the world feels smaller, closer. All that matters exists here in this gentle cocoon of falling snow and home's waiting glow. The scent of cinnamon grows just a little stronger, mingling now with the earthy sweetness of steeping tea. From somewhere close, so close, you can hear the faintest drip of water, the melted snow from the eaves outside, falling in tiny steady beads. The droplets create tiny dimples in the snowbanks below, a small, delicate rhythm against the vast quiet. And that's the wonder of it, isn't it? That in all this stillness, so much can be felt, heard, and known. That the world itself, though tucked under its winter blanket, speaks with a language all its own. One that moves slowly and gently, one that urges you to just slow and listen. For now, there's nothing else. No cluttered thoughts, no to-do lists, no echoes of a long day behind you, or hints of what lies ahead. Only the glow of the fire, the feathery sound of snow, the soft shifting of your chair as you shift a little deeper into its comfortable hold. There's no effort here. It's as though the room itself has drawn close to care for you, to cradle you against the winter, reassuring you that the world is at perfect peace. The snowfall outside is deeper still. You think for a moment, perhaps in some quiet corner of your mind, imagining how the world might look come morning, when the first rays of sunlight fan out across this blanket of snow, making it sparkle like uncountable diamonds. But there is no need to rush forward to greet the morning, no need to stir yourself from this place. For now, all that exists is this quiet snowfall, this stillness, and the soft energies of home that seem to hum gently around you. You breathe in deeply, the warmth of the room seeming to seep into every part of you, a peace as quiet and vast as the snow itself, filling you fully and slowly. Let it all be. Let it all happen. Let the snow fall gently. Let the fire crackle softly. Let the hours wander on as silently as they please. For now, all is calm. All is still. All is exactly as it should be. Inside the home, the warmth is immediate, spreading from the soft golden glow of carefully placed candles that flicker gently, their flames barely moving in the still air of the dining room. Shadows dance along the polished wooden walls, their undulating forms shifting like the snowflakes outside, ebbing and flowing with every faint flicker. The air is thick with a comforting combination of scents: roasted chestnuts, a hint of cinnamon and nutmeg, the slow caramel sweetness of sugar melting into pastries. All mingled softly with the delicate evergreen aroma of a wreath draped across the mantel, where a glimmering trail of pine cones and red berries completes the festive touch. The dining table stretches long and welcoming in the center of the room, draped in a creamy cloth that flows down to the floor in soft folds, its surface adorned with a scattering of greenery, little sprigs of holly tied carefully with crimson ribbons, and strands of golden garland that glint faintly beneath the warm light. Polished silverware catches the shine of the candles, their surfaces gleaming in quiet harmony with the rich, jewel-toned plates arranged precisely around the table. Between the flickering light of the candles and the delicate glow of fairy lights strung along a garland above the windows, the entire space seems to radiate a steady, soothing luminescence, a kind of quiet magic that makes time feel slower and softer. There is a comforting hum of conversation, a low murmur that barely stirs the air, yet fills the space so completely. It flows without haste, like the gentle rise and fall of ocean waves, lapping at the edges of the room. Voices blend together, warm and unhurried, each tone and word softened into a kind of verbal melody. A laugh rises here and there, light and airy, followed by murmurs of quiet agreement, the sound of someone pouring crisp, glowing amber liquid into a glass, and the soft chime of delicate crystal as two glasses meet in a small, celebratory toast. It is the kind of soundscape that feels as though it has no true beginning and no real end, just a continuing rhythm of human connection, weaving itself into the fabric of the evening like a delicate thread. The chairs around the table hold a lively array of figures, family gathered from all corners of life, wrapped in cozy sweaters with textures as varied and warm as the hearts inside them. Soft wool and thick knits in shades of deep burgundy, evergreen, and cream, touched here and there with silver threads that glimmer faintly in the light. Each one feels perfectly suited to the person who wears it, each sweater carefully chosen perhaps for moments just like this, moments of togetherness, woven with ease and warmth. To one side of the table, an elder sits with a lap blanket draped neatly across their knees, the slow movement of their hands bringing a steaming cup of tea to their lips. The cup itself is white with a delicate rim of gold, its glaze catching the candlelight as small wisps of steam curl upwards like a specter of warmth. Their voice is steady, melodic, as they share a story from holidays past, each word gentle and measured, each pause filled with the weight of memory and wisdom. Though the story they tell meanders, drifting from one quaint detail to the next, the listeners don't mind. They lean in closer, smiling softly, their patience a reflection of their love for the one speaking. Beside them, a child is curled into a blanket on an armchair, their cheeks rosy from the heat of the crackling fire that burns steadily in the hearth. In their small lap rests an oversized book, its pages worn, its cover embossed with faded gold leaf. They run their little fingers absently over the edge of the cover as their eyes flit between the grown-ups at the table and the dancing flames behind the cast-iron grate. The scene around them seems impossibly large and inviting, full of rhythm and texture, of warmth and belonging. Something they will no doubt carry with them long after this night fades into memory. The fire itself crackles softly, its embers glowing orange-red, the occasional pop sending a spark upward before it fizzles gracefully into the stone chimney. The logs shift now and then, with a sleepy sound that harmonizes perfectly with the easy murmur of the room. Beyond the glow of the fireplace, the edges of the room recede into gentle shadows, where wooden shelves lined with books and little knickknacks sit in quiet repose, their surfaces gleaming faintly with polish. Across the table, a platter is passed, its silver surface laden with baked goods that smell of buttery richness and the subtle zest of orange peel. A hand lingers a moment on the plate, selecting just the right treat, as though savoring the choice itself is part of the ritual. Fingers brush against the fluted edge of a tart, its crust golden and flaky, before lifting it carefully and placing it on a small porcelain plate. Nearby, another hand pours a warm, steaming drink from a pot wrapped neatly in a cloth to preserve its heat. The liquid pours out in a slow, seamless ribbon, filling the waiting mug with a peaceful sense of completion. From somewhere in the next room, a faint melody drifts in, a carol played quietly on a piano, its notes soft and hesitant, like the hands playing it are gliding over the keys with the lightest touch. The song itself is familiar, timeless in its simplicity, and it fills the air with a tender, nostalgic pull, each note suspended long enough to stretch and settle. It mingles with the steady rhythm of the voices and the occasional soft tap of utensils against porcelain, creating a symphony of small, perfect sounds. The windows are fogged over now with the warmth inside, their glass panes blurring the wintry world beyond. Still, the glow of the street lamps outside manages to filter through the frosted patterns etched into the glass by the cold, casting faint, shimmering streaks of light into the room. A young couple sits nearest to the window, their hands resting lightly on each other's, fingers intertwined and resting on the edge of the table. Their expressions are peaceful, contemplative, eyes gazing softly out at the snowy night as though sharing a quiet, unspoken thought. Now and then, someone reaches for the centerpiece, an arrangement of tall white candles dripping with melted wax that pools at their bases. Sprigs of fir and cedar surround their bases, along with a scattering of polished red apples and oranges studded with cloves. One by one, the flames dip and sway, their warm amber glow casting a golden shimmer on the fingers that adjust them or relight the ones that have begun to dim. The smell of the cloves mingles with the evergreen, rising faintly before dissipating into the soft haze of the room. Time moves differently here, if it moves at all. Each moment flows into the next with only the softest punctuation. A sigh here, a laughed word there, the muffled sound of a chair creaking slightly as someone leans back. Outside, the snow continues to fall with its soundless grace, adding layer upon layer to the pristine blanket covering the earth. The world feels muffled by it, softened, as though the snow itself works to preserve this moment, to protect it from the passage of too much time or any sudden movement that might tip it into the past. A small dog stirs from its nap near the hearth, its brown fur warmed to a toasty hue by the fire. It stretches luxuriously, its tiny paws extending forward as its eyes blink open, heavy with contentment. After a cursory glance at the group nearby, it gives a little sigh, turns a lazy circle, and settles back into its place on the soft, patterned rug. One of the children notices and giggles quietly, reaching over to brush their hand through the dog's warm fur. The dog hardly stirs this time, simply leaning subtly into the touch before slipping back into its comfortable slumber. The quiet rhythm of rising steam, of murmured conversation, and the occasional light tinkle of glasses gently carries the evening forward. A soft exhale from someone across the table, the sound of another drop of wine splashing into a neat, rounded glass, the occasional shifting of weight in chairs that now seem as though they too are settling more deeply into the night. It is a moment stretched beyond its ordinary limits, a perfect, golden stillness that feels as though it could last forever. And perhaps, in some way, it will. Time stretches thin and soft like the golden candlelight across the tabletop. It allows everyone to linger here a little longer, an unhurried kind of togetherness, warm and full, the way a hearth can warm not only the body, but the spirit. There is no rush, no urgency here, only an unspoken understanding that this night, this gathering, is a memory in the making, carved gently into the stillness of a winter night where snow falls in delicate silence, whispering promises of dreams yet to come. The room hums gently with the sounds of contentment, a soft thread of conversation weaving through the quiet warmth of a family at ease. The wooden chairs creak faintly as someone shifts their weight, the sound barely rising above the crackle of the fire nestled in the hearth. Its golden flicker casts moving patterns on the walls, an interplay of light and shadow that feels almost alive but entirely unhurried. You sit back, letting the faint rhythm of voices and soft, lilting laughter drift over you like the snow outside, steady, unending, and soothing in its constancy. The table stretches before you, smooth, dark wood partially revealed beneath a scattering of plates and mugs, each one harboring the remnants of a merry meal. There's something comforting about the sight, the inevitability of shared moments and lingering evidence of satisfied appetites. The candlelight pools in little golden halos around the uneven beeswax tapers, standing sentinel at intervals along the length of the table. Each tiny flame sways faintly, bending imperceptibly with some invisible current of air, a slow, hypnotic motion that matches the easy rhythm of the night. You run a finger along the table's surface where a patch of wood peeks through, a warm, slightly worn texture beneath your touch. The grain swirls in slow, looping patterns, shaped over decades, perhaps longer. It's strange how something solid can feel so alive. Trails of condensation loop lazily along the sides of a nearby glass, and idly tracing them somehow feels like part of this moment. Around you, forks are occasional whispers against plates, muted and almost melodic when paired with the low hum of conversation and the steady croon of the fire at your back. Somewhere to your left, your mother is speaking, softly, thoughtfully, and though her words start to drift just past your hearing, one catches your attention, not because of its volume or significance, but by the peculiar weight it carries. It's a name that feels distant, yet familiar, spoken like an echo from another time. You don't immediately respond, but glance towards her with mild curiosity, waiting for her to repeat herself. But that moment passes, leaving only a faint flutter of something unnamed stirring in its wake. Your mother smiles faintly, her attention elsewhere now, as though the comment were not meant to linger. not meant to catch in the air around you and hang suspended there like a drowsy pendulum's swing. Her fingers catch the edge of a mug, rotating it in slowing circles against the table. The soft scuff of ceramic on wood reminds you of the way the snow drifts outside. Gentle, deliberate, never rushed. You think about asking her to elaborate, but the thought comes and goes like a wisp, and instead, you simply let yourself watch her as she continues. Her hands move with an ease that suggests repetition. You've seen these hands 1,000 times before, always steady, always doing. They fold neatly into one another now, satisfied with the motion of the cup. The fire pops softly behind you, punctuating the quiet like the understated rhythms that musicians sometimes interject into a calming melody. It pulls your gaze for a moment, and you watch as the flames curl and undulate. They climb and fall, reaching for the edges of the stone hearth, their movement mesmerizing. The heat radiates outward in a comforting wave, seeping into the room. You can feel it beginning to reach your legs, your fingertips resting idly in your lap. The warmth is heavier now than before, pressing gently against the chill that lingered at the door where winter had kissed your cheeks not long ago. There is the faintest tinkling of glass as someone lifts a small crystal decanter from the sideboard. The liquid inside shifts with a sound like distant rainfall, the amber contents pouring out in a smoothly broken stream into an awaiting glass. Your father leans back in his chair as he extends his hand for the drink, his face softened by the firelight and the stillness of the hour. His eyes seem to carry a sparkle that matches the reflections of the flames dancing within the drink as he raises it to his lips. Another word floats lightly from his direction, not quite connected to the one before, but somehow matching in its sense of wonder. This time it's a phrase about something long ago, something elusive, and again it settles into the air, featherlight, waiting. For a moment you feel a faint twinge of something. Not unease, not quite. It is subtle, a ripple breaking the otherwise glassy surface of your thoughts, and your gaze flickers back and forth between the faces around the table. Everywhere, you are met not by urgency or curious stares, but calm, a steady stream of words exchanged with the kind of unhurried rhythm you only find in long familiar company. Yet, even in its calm, there's something about the tone of their voices now, about the lightness of the odd remarks they've let slip, that feels like a half-hidden thread in the tapestry of this evening's conversations. Your eyes wander again, gathering impressions as they drift across the table, the ways the glasses cast intricate, shifting reflections that bend and stretch with every flicker of the candles, the faint gleam of polished silverware resting askew on a plate's edge, the way the shadows of everyone's hands seem larger, more exaggerated in the lamplight, stretching like dreamlike replicas against the tablecloth. The moment itself feels stretched, elongated, as though time here were unspooling itself gently. Your mother's voice rises again, soft, unassuming, carrying with it a note of reflection. Her eyes are turned towards your father now, and he meets her gaze with a knowing look that is at once warm and fleeting. The two of them look back at one another, the pause between them filled with years you cannot touch, but that radiate a shared understanding you don't feel the need to interrupt. You sit within the rhythm of their unspoken dialogue, their words flowing into the memory before you realize you've latched onto it once more. The name dances softly in the periphery of your memory now, nudging gently. It feels like something spoken on a winter evening, perhaps long ago. Maybe just like this one. You close your eyes for a brief, steadying breath, letting the dreamy cadence of air fill your lungs and release it slowly. In the darkness of your closed eyelids, the flickering light of the candles persists, faint oranges and yellows dappling back and forth like a soft reflection across water. Everything about it, this rhythm of light, sound, warmth, is stillness itself, and yet there's the faintest pull, a lingering softness to the mystery of what's being left unsaid. You notice the feeling is not an intrusion, but an invitation, a small opening into the stream of memories you've waded through countless times, piecing together fragments of shared history that come alive during quiet moments like this. Your parents speak in careful crescendos, their voices never louder than the crackle of the fire, never jarring. They motion lightly with their hands sometimes, filling in the gaps with gestures that feel as much a part of the speech as the spoken words themselves. Between their gestures, their words, and their soft, shared smiles, you find yourself caught not on what they mean, but in how they say it, with wonder, with reverence. The warmth in the room continues to grow gently. The house itself seems to soften around you, its age apparent in the groan of the timber underfoot when someone shifts a chair back a mere inch. The wood echoes faintly in the air, a sound so familiar you don't even consciously process it, yet it weaves into the whole, completing the symphony of sound filling the home tonight. You lean back farther in your chair, letting the angles of it cradle your shoulders, your knees brushing the edge of the warm tablecloth. Snippets of sentences float to your periphery as you let yourself be carried by their flow. Words like before, when we, and never told you that flutter by in pieces you don't immediately hold on to. The stories continue, threading together as if floating on some larger tide that carries them through nights like this, passed between voices and silences with no start or end, only a continuation that has been building for as long as you can remember. They reach you in half-founded dreams, sleepy recollections of voices folding into one another until they're inseparable, like water and wine. Somewhere, the faint clink of a poker against the hearth rekindles your attention as someone adjusts the fire, and a fresh cascade of sparks floats upward in lazy arcs. They dim quickly, but leave brief after-images against your vision when you blink. The warmth surges briefly as the wood shifts and resettles into its embrace, deeper and more grounded, sending the quietest series of pops and hisses among the glowing embers. The scent of the room changes slightly, newer smoke mingling with the older, fuller aromas that had settled throughout the evening. It's almost imperceptible, but it's there, a slightly sharper edge to contrast the round comfort of everything else. In this moment, surrounded by these things, the smells, the textures, the sounds, you find your thoughts unwinding as slowly and calmly as the evening itself. Even the faint curiosity stirred earlier feels soft now, unhurried, waiting in no rush for answers. You let the steady pull of the room carry you instead, where each shape of light, every fragment of sound, folds you deeper into its soothing embrace. The snowflakes continue their silent descent from a sky heavy with promise, their delicate shapes twirling and fluttering a little slower now, as if savoring their journey toward the earth. The night air is crisp, filling your lungs with that cool, clean scent only winter seems to carry, a mingling of frosted branches and untouched snow, softened by the faint trace of wood smoke lingering from distant chimneys. The streets are quiet, still but not empty, dotted here and there, with warm golden lights spilling gently onto the whitened ground from shopfront windows and lampposts, the glow soft and unhurried, like a steady heartbeat guiding the way forward. A bell jingles faintly in the distance, a sound both clear and muted at once, carried softly on the chilled air, as though the cold has wrapped its hands around the noise to cradle it, muffling its edges, and sending it drifting toward you in waves. You pause for a moment, your breath visible in fleeting clouds, watching as it dissolves into the still night, mingling with the quiet around you. The scarf wrapped snugly around your neck seems warmer now, the fibers holding onto your own heat, as though the winter's touch could never quite reach you through its protective embrace. Somewhere nearby, the faint rustle of snow shifts against a wall, perhaps a passing bird, or a gust of wind barely strong enough to stir the air. The crunch beneath your boots with each step is steady, rhythmic, and soothing, a sound like a whispered promise, filling the silence rather than breaking it. It is an almost musical cadence, every step releasing a fresh note into the frozen air, blending harmoniously with the quiet creak of bare trees swaying ever so softly in the windless night. Their branches, heavy with snow, gleam faintly under lantern light as you pass, their bark seeming darker, almost black against the white powder that clings to each sweeping limb. You reach out absent-mindedly, your gloved fingertips brushing against the trunk of one as you walk by, the rough texture grounding you for a moment before your hand falls gently back to your side. The snow along the edge of the path is uneven, some patches of it untouched and pristine, others scattered with faint deer tracks, or the imprint of a sled's runners leading toward the nearby hill where children must have played earlier in the day. Though all is silent now, it's almost as if you can hear the laughter echoing faintly in the distance, even though it's only a memory flickering on the edge of thought. Along the street, windows framed in crisp wooden shutters glow, their light spilling onto the snow in rectangles that dance faintly as candles flicker somewhere inside. They remind you, in their quiet simplicity, of how welcoming it would be to step into such warmth, into spaces where scents of cinnamon and pine wood would greet you. But you let the thought drift, as nearby snow crunches softly beneath another set of boots, perhaps a fellow traveler, though their form is barely visible past the veil of falling flakes. Nearer the turn in the path, a faint tinkling sound emerges, the gentlest music of wind chimes, their silver tones catching on the breeze in a way that feels less like sound and more like a whisper, a soft, melodic suggestion woven into the stillness. The snow-covered rooftops seem to lean inward, surrounding the street like a quiet embrace, their edges frosted with shimmering crystals, catching the faint starlight that peeks intermittently through the clouds above. It is hard to imagine that this street, so hushed and peaceful now, saw anything but calm earlier in the day, but you can feel the remnants of footsteps, an energy left behind that hums enough to remind you of lives that shifted in and out of the spaces here. A slow tide that ebbs and flows, quiet now until the morning light begins it all again. The sight of glowing lights ahead is welcoming, a steadier, more deliberate warmth emanating from a building that stands gracefully at the street's edge, its cobblestone steps leading upward like an invitation. The bank stands tall but unassuming, its snowy rooftops sloping gently downward like the peak of a mountain, softened by time and patience. You let your steps slow as you approach, savoring the moments soak in the scene. The wooden door, carved with elegant grooves that spiral downward in careful lines, stands framed by garlands of evergreen intertwined with muted, twinkling lights. In the corners of the doorway, lanterns glow softly, their flame barely flickering within the protective shelter of the glass panes. The lantern light reflects faintly across the surface of the snow below, casting shadows that ebb and flow as you step closer, the sound of your boots slowing into softer and quieter crunches. It's almost as if the lights themselves recognize your approach, leaning inward toward the warmth of your presence, adding brighter glimmers to the edges of the pathway. Every detail feels intentional, as if placed gently into the scene with calm deliberation, a reminder of simple comforts that soothe without asking anything in return. The golden handle of the door is cold beneath your gloved hand as you reach for it, its weight giving way smoothly, the wood opening inward without a sound. Inside, the warmth has a quiet presence of its own, rising up toward you immediately in a way that seems to embrace rather than overwhelm. The scents are subtle but unmistakable. Aged wood and polished marble, mingling with the faint aroma of pine wreaths carefully hung along window frames. The ticking of a grandfather clock in the corner blends seamlessly with the distant crackle of a fire nestled somewhere deeper within the room. The faint hum of conversation pairs with the creak of leather as chairs shift with the weight of those seated, both sounds forming a thread of connection that stitches together the fabric of the space. The bank manager himself seems to emerge from this quiet warmth, as though he belongs not only here, but to this moment. His presence one of balance and steadiness rather than intrusion. His features are kind, but not overly expressive, his eyes holding the quiet knowledge of many evenings like these, moments where stillness and consideration take precedence over hurried exchanges. He greets you not with words first, but with a slight nod, the kind of gesture that could speak volumes if you simply paused to listen. And so you do listen, letting the pause itself stretch out until he begins to speak in a low, even tone that matches his deliberate movements. The conversation flows slowly, like water coaxed to travel gently over stones, unhurried and calm. His voice carries a faint resonance that seems to echo within the space, not loudly, but in a way that allows you to hear the depths of his words even long after they have been spoken. His hands rest on the polished wood of his desk, their movements gracefully deliberate as he gestures toward a small ledger bound in soft leather, its edges worn from years of use but cared for lovingly. Occasionally he pauses, shifting his gaze toward the window behind you, the faint light of flames from the fireplace casting shadows across the delicate lines of his face. And when he does, it feels right, as if the pauses themselves answer questions unspoken, moments to just be to take in. The flicker of candlelight near his desk dances against the etched edges of his inkstand, the tiny flames illuminating a scattering of pens carefully stored next to unmarked sheets of parchment. There is purpose in every soft sound, the faint scratch of pen on paper as something is recorded, the distant shuffle of slippers across the wooden floor as someone moves toward a different corner of the room. And between these sounds, silence fills the spaces too, weaving throughout the air like a thread too delicate to hold, but beautiful simply for existing. At times, you notice the shadows dancing along the walls, the faint play of amber light shifting along the aged patterns carved into the wood surrounding the room. You let yourself sit in the presence of this quiet exchange for longer than you had planned, not because you must, but because there is something tender wrapped within the slowness, a rhythm that does not ask to be hurried, but simply embraced. When the moment comes for departure, it arrives softly, without abruptness, as though the minutes themselves have decided to guide you gently forward. The manager rises, his movements patient as he moves toward the door to see you out, his hand opening the frame quietly, the faint creak mingling with the distant sound of snow resettling against the ground. Stepping out into the chilled air once more, you are greeted by twinkling lights mingling delicately with the snow-filled street. The night feels even quieter than before, and yet somehow richer now. The road ahead stretching toward your home, its snowy path rippling faintly beneath the added calm of a deepened stillness. Each step forward feels softer now, the crunch beneath your boots joined once again by the distant chiming of bells and the faint rustle of trees, sounds that harmonize with the steady beat of the night itself. And as you walk on, the world seems to breathe alongside you, slow and rhythmic, steady and tender, each exhale blending peacefully with the snowfall, folding itself gently into the ever-patient ground. Upon climbing the soft snow-covered steps to the bank's grand entrance, there is a moment of gentle pause, as if the world itself has taken a breath, frost-laced air swirling lazily in the moments between steps. The heavy wooden doors, their surface smooth to the touch and worn from countless winters, open with the faintest creak, a sound that seems to blend effortlessly with the muted rustle of the snow beneath your boots. As you step inside, the world shifts. The chill of the outside air gives way to an enveloping warmth, a quiet hush settling over everything, accompanied by the subtle, earthy scent of aged wood and faintly perfumed candles. The interior of the bank is an unexpected contrast, a haven of serenity tucked away from the brisk, wintry night. The glow of low-hanging lamps casts wide halos along the walls, their light illuminating the polished surfaces that gleam with a gentle amber radiance. The space feels ancient, yet timeless, as if held in a careful balance, designed to soothe and encourage the soul. A soft carpet stretches across the floor, its fibers absorbing each footfall in gentle silence, creating the sense of walking on snow, soft and yielding. The quiet hum of activity in the bank is a rarity, almost imperceptible against the deep stillness that permeates the air. There's the faint shuffle of papers being rearranged, the occasional muted clink of coins shifting within unseen drawers, and the soft resonance of footsteps across wooden floors somewhere deeper within the space. These sounds seem as much a part of the atmosphere as the candlelight, weaving into the tapestry of calm, reminding you that this moment exists in harmony with the world surrounding it. The air feels warm against your skin, a calming embrace after the crisp cold of the winter walk, and carries with it the scent of faintly spiced tea, mingling with the warm traces of wax and wood polish. With each step forward, the rich textures of the room seem to deepen. Your fingertips graze the edge of the carved wooden counter, its surface smooth and cool to the touch, while your eyes trace the intricate patterns carved into its sides, a slow dance of curving lines and looping accents that seem to tell a story of their own. It is here, standing still for a moment, that the presence of the bank manager makes itself known. From within a quieter alcove near the far corner of the room, a figure steps forward, their energy like the bank itself, steady, composed, and warm. They are tall, their movements deliberate yet unhurried, each motion thoughtful, as though they inhabit this space with a quiet reverence. Their attire mirrors the environment. A deep green sweater, soft and thick, seems to carry its own warmth, paired with well-worn leather shoes that whisper softly against the carpeted floor. When they greet you, their voice is low and measured, flowing like the slow trickle of a stream carving its way through a hidden woodland. There is kindness in the warmth of their tone, the sort of kindness that asks nothing in return but seems to exist simply to be shared. As they offer you a seat in the adjacent room, you follow without hesitation, drawn to the steady rhythm of their presence, like the pull of a gentle tide. The room they lead you to is much smaller than the grand hall you've left behind, yet here the intimacy feels deliberate, comforting, a space designed for quiet conversations, for the sharing of thoughts and moments that might live on in the heart long after they are spoken. The chairs are plush and inviting, their deep green cushions yielding softly as you settle in. A delicate tea set rests on the table beside you, its porcelain surfaces seeming to glow faintly in the lamplight. The small teapot lets out wisps of aromatic steam, carrying the soothing promise of warmth in every pore. The bank manager joins you, lowering themselves gracefully into the seat opposite yours. For a few moments, the world seems to pause again, a sensation so faint you wonder if it's just the slowing of your own breath as you sink deeper into this atmosphere of quiet comfort. It's as though even time moves slower here, unfolding in leisurely waves that stretch and contract in tune with the rhythm of life inside these walls. The silence is accompanied by subtle sounds, the steady tick of a brass clock mounted high upon the wall, its hands making their methodical journey forward as though with no regard for urgency. From time to time, the faint hollow creak of the wooden ceiling above emanates softly, like a murmured acknowledgement of the stories these walls have held over years past. From far away, the muffled crunch of snowy footsteps beyond the bank's front doors drifts through the still air, fading quickly into quiet. It is then that the manager begins to speak, their voice carrying a kind of wisdom born from winters past, each word flowing softly, gently, crafting stories like snowflakes resting upon outstretched hands. They recount a tale of the frost-laden countryside, of wandering through untouched fields with nothing but the sound of the breeze and the soft crunch of footsteps in the snow. They speak of the way winter shapes the land into a different world altogether, how bare branches intertwined against the sky seem almost like veins tracing the deeper lifeblood of the earth itself. As the stories unfold, you find yourself immersed in their cadence, in the way their voice moves without rush, painting vivid pictures that seem to exist both within the bank and beyond its walls. They tell you, too, of moments within these very rooms, of visitors who came seeking not just the guidance of financial wisdom, but also a moment of respite from the outside world. Their stories, they explain, often began much like yours, with the need to step away from the cold for a time, and were transformed into quiet exchanges of memories and thoughts, the bank becoming as much a refuge as a place of its appointed purpose. Their words move like a melody played upon the strings of the heart, and the room, the very air that covers and cradles your body, seems to respond to this flow. Your gaze drifts to the soft glow of a nearby lampshade, its warm light spilling out onto the table like the golden touch of sunlight upon fresh snowfall. Beside you, the texture of the chair beneath your hands becomes more vivid, a soft, velvet fabric that seems to hold warmth like a quiet ember. Outside, the wind stirs faintly again, the sound wandering in through unseen gaps in the walls, mingling with the steady rhythm of the ticking clock. You wonder briefly if you could linger here forever, watching the quiet dance of light and shadow as the snow continues its silent descent beyond the bank's windows. It is as though the space itself encourages this thought, inviting you to lose yourself in its careful balance of stillness and warmth. The tea before you cools slightly, and you lift the porcelain handle gently, the touch of the ceramic against your fingertips reassuringly smooth. You take a sip. The liquid brings a soothing heat, its flavor light yet grounding, with hints of spice that remind you of the season's many comforts. The bank manager, too, lifts their cup and continues their thoughtful observations, their gaze shifting every so often, not hurriedly, but with the quiet attentiveness of one who carries no demands of the moment. A pause settles over your conversation, long enough to let the quiet sounds of the room expand and fill the spaces between. The bank manager observes the snow outside, their expressions soft and unspoken, before offering a brief reflection. something gentle about how the rhythms of winter often teach patience, moving us to embrace the natural pace of life rather than rushing ever forward. Their words linger not only in the room but within you, like the faint scent of tea wafting through the air, delicate but lasting. Minutes pass in this way, flowing together into currents of deeper ease. The patterns upon the carved doorframes grow familiar now, their looping designs catching the light, tracing quiet forms that seem almost living. The floor beneath your boots holds its warmth, the fibers of the carpet absorbing the faint chill still lingering from outside. Slowly, the sounds of night in the distance, faint rustlings of leaves, the occasional drift of snow against the walls, begin to fade to a hum, merging seamlessly with the life inside the bank. And the bank manager, their presence steady and calm, continues to speak, crafting words that drift gently through the room. Their stories remind you once more of the season's quiet miracles, how snow can soften even the harshest lines of the landscape, how the glow of a candle can bring warmth to the coldest corners, how moments of gentle connection can stretch far beyond their fleeting timelines. Everything seems to move towards stillness now, not silent stillness, but an alive kind, the kind that exists in harmony with its surroundings, filling every crevice until it feels as if peace itself had taken shape here. Beyond the curtained windows, the snow continues, its descent steady and unbroken, matching the dreamlike rhythm of shared conversation unfolding between small sips of spiced tea. The stories grow softer still, until at last there is only quiet between you and the bank manager. Quiet so deep, it echoes through every corner of the room, like the slow pulse of a winter night. The soft murmur of conversation unfurls like a quiet stream, curling through the room in gentle waves, ebbing and flowing with pauses that linger just enough to leave space for thought. It's a rhythm older than any one person in the room, a shared cadence slipped seamlessly from one generation to the next, as if the act of speaking together has always followed this measured and deliberate tempo. There's a reverence in the way voices settle after each word, a letting go that feels as instinctive as breathing. The golden light of the fire flickers and shifts, softening the edges where shadows gather, draping the room in calm hues of amber and deep umber. Like time itself stretches and slows here, keeping pace with this unhurried moment. Fingers rest lightly against a mug warmed by tea just steeped, the faint rise of steam curling upward in lazy tendrils before disappearing into the cool air above. The tea carries with it the gentle fragrance of chamomile and lavender, a scent that fills the room in quiet pulses, inviting eyelids to grow heavier, shoulders to ease their way into more natural slopes. The feel of the ceramic mug, smooth and cool in places where it hasn't touched the liquid inside, grounds the hand that holds it, a delicate tether between the listener and the story being shared just before the next pause. The words spoken now are soft, nearly a whisper, as the storyteller's voice folds itself into the low hum of the evening. The fire crackles gently in response, marking the rhythm of the tale, almost as though it understands the layers of connection buried beneath the conversation. A shift of fabric brushes faintly against the surface of a worn armchair, creating the barest sound, easy to miss in the presence of so much stillness and warmth. The chair itself is older than the person sitting in it, its upholstery faded to a texture like velvet warmed by sunlit afternoons. In its embrace, the storyteller pauses for a moment, glancing around the room as though securing the most delicate fragments of memory before the next few sentences emerge. The textures in the space blend effortlessly into the night. The worn grain of the wooden table, veined like the back of a hand, its surface holding faint impressions of years gone by, scratches from a misplaced fork or the faintest burn from a candle tipped too far. The curtain to the window billows ever so slightly, stirred by the barest draft creeping in from somewhere unseen. The fabric floats in gentle ripples, catching just a whisper of moonlight that spills unevenly between the threads. Outside, the snow continues its descent, flakes gathering on the sill like promises held in quiet reserve, their shapes untouched by any haste or interruption. There is no rush here, no urgency in the gathering of thoughts or the unfolding of words. Instead, each sentence finds its place organically, as if guided not by the person speaking it, but by something softer and older, a current of humanity that threads through all gatherings like this. The conversation dips, rises, lingers, and moves forward again in its unhurried way. The storyteller's voice, textured and low, folds in on itself as they begin connecting threads long thought separate. The story being shared now carries with it the faint fragrance of a family hearth long extinguished, its embers replaced by golden memories that hold their own kind of warmth. Words sketch out the soft outline of someone long gone, their imprint still reaching through time as a collection of little truths, quiet, steady truths that find their shape in this shared moment. The listener closest to the fireplace tilts their head ever so slightly, the weight of their curiosity pulling toward the sound of the tale, their face shadowed by the faint flicker of flame, but open, warm, resting into the pull of remembrance. Across the room, the sound of fabric shifts again, marking a subtle change in the posture of someone leaning closer, the tilt of knees against a sofa's edge, the faintest rustle of wool pulled gently over a shoulder. It's a gesture of leaning into the story not only with ears, but with the whole body, the way only someone immersed in full presence does, unconsciously mirroring the shared atmosphere of quiet and connection. Outside, a gust of wind rolls across the roof, stirring the snowbanks piled delicately against corners and walls. The sound is hollow and soft, and the house responds as it always has, with gentle murmurs in its beams, creaks tracing their way along hidden corridors like the house itself is breathing beside them. The storyteller's next sentence begins gently, unspooling the tiniest revelation, not dramatic, just an understated truth that slides quietly into the air between them. Words move forward with a grace most can feel but not describe, rolling over themselves the way silk folds onto a fingertip, smooth and seamless. There's a weight to this truth, but it's not heavy. No, it's the kind of weight that grounds rather than burdens, leaving those who hear it more connected to themselves, tethered in a way that feels steady, safe, and known. The fire flickers again, as if marking the slight shift in light these words bring, not just to the room but to the heart of the one receiving them. It's a simple link, really. This truth that ties the past to the present in a way few had grasped before now. But the simplicity is what makes it beautiful, like the first snowflake you notice on a quiet afternoon, even when dozens just like it have already fallen unnoticed. It's the kind of revelation that makes the shoulders soften just a little more, lips curve just enough into faint smiles, the corners of eyes glisten faintly like moonlight caught in water. The light in the room seems to shift in response, the amber glow of the fire dipping into textures richer still, casting deeper shadows through folds of fabric and corners of walls. It's not a tangible change. It's the kind that words would fail to measure, but anyone present would feel all the same. For a moment, no one speaks. There's no need. The quiet carries its own weight and meaning now, stretching across time in that peculiar, lulling way only shared silence can. The listener by the fire shifts their hand just slightly against the nearby table once more, sliding fingertips slowly over its worn surface as though tracing invisible shapes left behind by years of touch. The ceramic mug, now cooling in its contact with the air, still carries the scent of herbal tea, a reminder of its fleeting warmth, which lingers not as heat, but as memory, now resting lightly in the palm of their hand. Outside, the wind still stirs, its movement slow and deliberate, pulling across branches weighed gently by snow. A faint sprinkle of powder falls from each bowing limb, muffled only by the layers of snow blanketing the earth, absorbing any sound beneath them. The fabric at the window shifts once more, stilled momentarily by a drop in the wind, embracing quiet as though even its movements have learned the pace of the evening's rhythm. The storyteller takes a deep breath, their voice softening further before continuing. Their narrative wraps gently around those gathered, speaking not just to the words themselves, but to the spaces between them, where pauses live, where breaths land. There's a rhythm to nights like this, so subtle it likely goes unnoticed, yet it's there all the same. In the way hands move quietly against worn fabric, in the rise and fall of voices that pause for thought, in the soft sigh of the wind finding its way inward. The house feels alive in its stillness, responding to the gathering like a memory keeper, its beams and corners carrying the weight of stories untold, as well as those shared tonight. The subtle textures reach everywhere, even to the frozen banks of snow that press gently against its edges, serving as boundary and witness, untouched yet present. The storyteller speaks again, guiding the truth toward completion, their voice almost merging with the fire's lingering crackle, as though sound itself knows when and where to settle with the words being shared. The connections they've drawn rest softly now, not conclusions meant to answer, but moments meant to reflect. A window into something larger than the room itself. Each listener feels it, the quiet echo of humility and humanity present in the tale, in the honesty of loved ones spoken of now, and perhaps in their own mirrored reflection carried forward within them. There's an acceptance in it all, a recognition as natural and steady as the snowfall continuing its gentle sway outside. The moment reaches itself fully now, descending slowly, like fog meeting dawn, an arrival that feels inevitable, yet still tender in its landing. It rests lightly over everyone gathered, leaving in its wake the kind of peace that deepens even the quietest breaths, loosening the grip of thoughts long held too tightly. No one moves quickly. There's no need. Instead, the fire continues its steady conversation with the air around it, while words and their quiet truths find their silent place in the hearts of those listening. A pause stretches long enough to feel eternal and fleeting all at once. The meeting draws to a natural close, the gentle hum of voices tapering off until only the ambient silence remains, as deep and soft as newly fallen snow. You linger a moment longer, reluctant to disturb the rare stillness that has drifted into the room, settling like a thin veil over shoulders and hearts. Outside the tall, frost-kissed windows, the faintest shimmer of stars begins to emerge in the deepening indigo sky, their light barely perceptible beneath the cloud cover that has thinned delicately over time. With a quiet, murmured farewell and a final glance at the quietly glowing space, you step back into the evening, greeted by the familiar winter air that wraps itself around you like a worn, much-loved blanket. The soft crunch of your boots against the snow begins to guide you homeward, each step measured, deliberate, as though the night itself encourages you to move unhurriedly, to savor the symphony of small details unfolding quietly all around. The snow has grown lighter now, its descent slower and more languid, drifting gently through the spaces between bare branches and rooftops. Each flake catches the faint starlight before it lands, its crystalline edges glistening briefly, like the memory of light before it disappears. The road home stretches ahead, wide and familiar, its surface softened by endless layers of snow that muffles every sound except the gentle rhythm of your footsteps. It feels as though you're walking through a world paused in time, where each breath lingers in the air as curling vapor, dissipating so slowly as if it too resists letting go. You pause here and there along your journey, not out of necessity, but simply to absorb the quiet beauty of what surrounds you, a living landscape woven of silver frost and feathery snow, of glimmers that pulse faintly under lamplight. The lamps themselves glow with a subdued brilliance, their amber light pooling warmly beneath their iron frames, illuminating nearby surfaces in soft, uneven arcs that resemble watercolor hues spilled across the evening. The shadows they cast are delicate too, shifting with every movement, branches swaying in the breeze, stray flakes spiraling downward, the careful cadence of your own steps. The snow beneath your feet is powdery and loose in some places, packed and firm in others. Each subtle change in texture, a quiet reminder of how the world offers variety even in its simplest moments. Somewhere in the distance, buried by the velvet layers of silence, the faint sound of wind chimes stirs, soft chains of notes ringing gently, catching the wind only in passing, just enough to leave traces of melody floating in the still air. Your hands rest comfortably in your pockets, shielded from the deep chill, though you can still feel its presence in the soft prickle of cold against your cheeks and the tip of your nose. Every so often, you exhale deeply, the motion slow and deliberate, as if releasing not just breath, but some secret weight carried within. Each exhale feels lighter, easier, the warmth of gratitude spreading quietly through you, like an ember glowing softly beneath layers of ash. The gratitude feels almost tangible now, woven tightly into the scene of snow dusting rooftops, trees standing quietly beneath their icy coats, the soft patterns traced onto windows by frost's delicate fingers. The path slopes gently, leading past familiar landmarks, the wrought iron fence whose ornate loops and curls now glisten faintly with frost, the ivy-covered garden wall that peeks out beneath its snow-covered roof, the neighborhood bench half buried, but still inviting in its quiet presence. You pause near the bench for a moment, watching as the snow that clings stubbornly to its edges shifts faintly in the breeze. It's as though the inanimate world holds its own heartbeat, each detail quietly alive with subtle motion, subtle sound, everything coexisting in unison, each element melting seamlessly into the next. As the slope evens out, you find yourself passing through a stretch of evergreen trees, their dark green forms outlined in frosty silver, the tips of their branches bowing slightly with the weight of snow. The faint rustle of needles brushing together is almost imperceptible, but it's there. A low, almost rhythmic sound that fills the spaces between your footsteps like a quiet accompaniment. You reach out as you pass, your gloved hand brushing gently against a branch. The needles, brittle but soft to the touch, release the lightest shower of powdery snow upon contact, and you watch as the flakes flutter downward, their journey so gently performed it becomes a small wonder. Beyond the evergreens, the sky feels broader, more open, its canvas dotted unevenly with stars that pulse faintly in shades of white and gold. You find your gaze drawn upward, following the subtle shifts in their brightness, their pinprick constellations scattered wide across the heavens. For a while, you simply walk and watch, allowing the starlight to guide your thoughts, to illuminate not only the snowy path before you, but the quiet expanse of gratitude unfolding within. It feels as though each star reflects a moment, those fleeting, often unnoticed moments that build the days and nights of life itself, each one etched gently into your heart like snow settling onto branches. Your breath mingles with the starry silence, filling the evening with an unseen rhythm. The warmth of other memories dances softly at the edges of your thoughts. Laughter shared bitterly cold nights, quiet cups of tea made sweeter by conversation, the brief but lyrical note of listening to a snowy world close a day full of unexpected quiet wisdom. It all blends together fluidly now, threads weaving themselves effortlessly into the present moment, stitching past and present into a deeper sense of something whole. The road begins to narrow slightly as you turn onto the street leading toward your home, its edges framed by a row of hedges and a low stone wall. Here, the snow settles more densely, untouched by passing cars or hurried footsteps, its surface pristine and smooth like an untouched canvas. Your boots rise and fall gently in the powdered expanse, leaving subtle imprints behind, each step light but deliberate, marking not just the journey home, but the evening itself. The crisp sensation of snow compressing beneath your weight rises faintly through the soles of your boots, whispering its familiar cadence, each sound flowing easily into the next, a rhythm that soothes rather than interrupts. As your home comes gradually into view, the warm glow of lamplight through the window feels like an invitation extended without words. The shadows of frost-traced patterns dance faintly against the glass panes, curving arcs of silver and white that gather unevenly but beautifully, as if the frost's creator took delight in crafting something unique for each window. The faint smell of wood smoke meets you again, carried delicately by the breeze, mingling with the surrounding air until it permeates the senses like an unspoken comfort, a reminder of the warmth waiting just beyond the door. You pause before entering, letting the stillness wash over you one last time, lingering in its tranquil embrace. The snowflakes continue their slow tumble, each one unique in its delicate etchings, their surfaces melting faintly as they land against your gloves, vanishing almost too quickly to seem real. The stars overhead burn steadily now, neither bright nor dim, their presence subtle but unwavering, a quiet assurance wrapped in the vastness of night. The gratitude reaches out gently once again, growing not in bursts but in slow, unbroken waves, filling every corner of your being with its quiet light. It feels as though the world breathes with you, a shared rhythm that pulses faintly but soothingly through the snow-drenched trees, the frost-laden rooftops, the softly glowing lamps. Stepping through the door, the evening's presence remains with you. It folds itself gently into the space you enter, lingering in the light, the warmth, the sense of home that surrounds you. And yet you know that the snowy night outside, in all its quiet beauty, will continue to unfurl its wonders long after you've left it behind. The gentle creak of the door fades into yesterday as you step inside, your movements unhurried, the floor beneath you soft and welcoming, like an old friend drawing close for an embrace. The air within the house feels warmer than before, wrapped in the scent of time-worn wood and the faint spice of pine logs resting beside the hearth. It is a quiet place, this home, where the walls seem to breathe alongside you, their timbers murmuring in soft whispers that blend with the crackle of the fire, a sound ancient in its rhythm, timeless in its comfort. You take it all in slowly, letting the warmth seep into your skin, letting the stillness settle. Here, there is no urgency to move, no need to rush through the moments that unfold. The fire itself dances in near silence, its glow licking at shadows, pushing them lazily across the room, stretching them thin against the walls as if too tired to linger long. The flame begins low, almost shy, its amber heart flickering close to the logs, sending out tiny sparks that seem to float for a brief second before blinking out into the dark. You feel the heat of it first on your skin, a slow, creeping warmth that begins at your fingertips before curling around your palms, climbing over you like a soft wool blanket that has been waiting just for you. You can almost taste it too, that faint earthy trace of smoke in the air, not overpowering but steady and familiar, the smell of home. Near the fire, a small chair waits, its cushions worn smooth by time and presence, its arms soft with age. You sit down gently, your body sinking into its curves, the fabric cradling you in much the same way a quiet stream might hold a leaf, its stillness complete and unconditional. The chair settles beneath you with a faint creak, a sound so subtle it mingles with the shifting firelight, belonging here as naturally as the hum of the night outside the windows. The world outside feels distant now, almost unreal, as though the house itself had curled around this single moment, keeping time at bay, ushering you only forward into stillness. You let your eyes wander, not searching for detail, but simply letting them follow the fire's glow wherever it spreads. All around, the room breathes comfort, the worn wooden beams lining the ceiling, speckled with faint knots and grooves that speak of long seasons past, the shelves tucked neatly into corners, cradling a quiet congregation of stories locked within thick spines. The faint gleam of copper along an old kettle that catches the light in flickering waves that come and go without a sound. The textures surround you, welcoming your touch without asking, like familiar hands reminding you they're here whenever you need them. The night presses softly at the windows, not urgently, but gently, as though it simply wishes to be near. Stars glimmer faintly, their light filtering through the frost patterns etched across the glass, soft, geometric shapes as delicate as lace. You can trace them with your eyes, shapes that seem to form and reform with every shift, glimpses of things imagined rather than seen. They invite your gaze deeper, as though their fragile lines might carry you beyond the glass, into the quiet hum of the night itself. You feel the pull of it, but only faintly, mixing seamlessly into the warmth beneath your hands. A balance of cool and soft heat, each holding space for the other. The silence in the room grows heavier, not oppressive, but thick and certain, like the span of a blanket that spreads across everything within reach. It holds the space around you softly, kneading itself into each corner, each fold of fabric, every beam of wood, and every flicker of shadow. Even the fire settles lower in part, its pops turning quieter, its glow dimming into something deeper, richer, a warm pool spreading across the hearth, never rushing toward the edges but reaching gently all the same. It invites rest, this quiet. It weaves itself into the rhythm of your breathing, as if it had always been there. You close your eyes for a moment, not to escape, but to deepen the layers around you, to soak in the quiet. It isn't truly silent, not completely. There are sounds here, soft ones, almost imperceptible, but present if only to remind you the world is still moving, so slowly, so gently. There is the faint caress of air against the walls, pressing and pulling in invisible waves, the whisper of the fabric beneath your fingertips as it shifts slightly beneath you, and the quiet, steady crackle of the fire, lingering like a lullaby played not for ears but for every part of you that listens without effort. You let the darkness behind your eyelids unfold, and within it you find shapes, faint and dreamy, woven of shadow, light, and memory, things you understand without needing to define. There are waves here, soft and rolling, slower than any